Mike, check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and here's what's happening in the market. This is what's going on. A lot of things, whether it be video games, whether it be clothing, whether it be sneakers, a lot of things are often driven by euphoria and hype. And really, hype is just another word that you can use for euphoria. And we see this happen in the markets, and we see how it affects the pricing for certain items. Now, to me, I consider video games and clothing and shoes and baseball cards and coin collections and DVDs. I consider all of those things luxuries, right? When you look at the world on a large scale, a lot of the problems that we have are first world problems. They're not issues that are life or death. But what happens is a lot of these things can be driven, these products and services, by the hype, by the euphoria, and perceived value. So today, I got in two great packages. First off, I got in my copy of Gravity Circuit, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. And then I also got a pair of sneakers that I'm also going to talk about in a moment. Now, for a long time, and not really a long time, I'd say for a couple years, right? There was a lot of hype surrounding video games, retro games, right? And so much so to the point where retro games went insane. I remember in 2020 going to one of my local game stores and seeing just folks who weren't necessarily collectors, because they would come into the store and they would just say it. And you would see like dudes in their mid 40s, early 50s going into these stores, because at that time everyone was home. No one had, a lot of people were trying to figure out things to do. Everyone had a lot of time on their hands. And so a lot of folks who were in their 40s, early 50s decided, what would be awesome if I went back and played video games from 30 years ago. That would be amazing. So they went to their local game store. They decided to pick up Mario Brothers. They decided to pick up Zelda. They decided to pick up Contra. And that began to drive euphoria, right? There was this euphoric feeling. There was this nostalgic feeling like, man, it'd be great to get these items that take me back to a special time. And market manipulators are the masters of exploiting euphoria. And that's exactly what we saw happen between 2020 and early 2023. We saw a mass exploitation of euphoria and hype. And so what happened was retro games just started to explode, right? And to a degree, they never really came back down. Retro game prices have not come back down. And it's still pretty darn expensive to start a retro game collection, which is why, to me, if I absolutely had to start a video game collection today, I'd probably start with the Switch. Because with the Switch, you're going to kind of get the best of both worlds when it comes to modern gaming and retro gaming. So many games have been ported to the Switch, and there are still so many like amazing games, like larger games that have been delivered to the Switch, like The Witcher is on the Switch, which is a really big game. Monster Hunter, that's a really broad game. A lot of these games are available on the Switch. They probably don't run as well on the Switch as they would on like a Xbox or a PlayStation or something like that, but they're still there. But for me personally, right? I have never allowed euphoria and opinions to drive what I like. I sold my Switch collection at a time where everyone was like, dude, don't sell it. The Switch is amazing. Like, you don't know what you're doing. I've always been the type to kind of go against the grain and never really kind of like follow what the trends were. And at the time that I was collecting retro, the hot system to collect for was the GameCube. And I absolutely left it alone. I was out collecting Sega CD games. I was out collecting import Sega Saturn games and, Neo Geo Pocket games when everyone was hyped up on the GameCube. And now, I'm not going to say that the Switch has died off or that there isn't as much hype around the Switch because I think the Switch is still wildly popular. But I think a lot of the euphoria and hype around companies like Limited Run, Super Rare Games, I think a lot of that hype has definitely died down. I remember there was a point where certain games, when they released, instant sellouts, instantly sold out on Limited Run. And if you've been collecting for the Switch over the last 4 years, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There was a time where if Super Rare Release was releasing certain games, as soon as it dropped, instant sellout. And now that's not so much the case. And it was always the games that you knew would sell out would be these modern retro style games, these modern retro classics that a lot of people enjoyed. And that is where Gravity Circuit comes in. Now, Gravity Circuit definitely is not a game that was like a limited run game or strictly limited game. This got a general release. It was released by Red Art Games, and I actually like Red Art. Red Art has produced some of the better 2D sprite-based games on the Switch that I've seen. They've done a really good job. And I think they did a really good job with this one, Gravity Circuit. I can't wait to dive into this more and just learn, just get better at the controls, learn the different move sets and weapons. But this is basically an action platformer, kind of like a run and gun action platformer set in this like 8-bit style design scheme. And I'm a sucker for these types of games. And this might be the third Switch game that I've purchased all year. I think the first one I picked up was Fist of the North Star Boxing. The second was, I think, Slave Zero X, which is really cool. That game reminds me of Strider 2 on the PS2. Really like the graphics there. Really cool controls in that game too. Gets a little bit repetitive with the move sets, but I still like it. Slave Zero X, and then this one, Gravity Circuit. Totally stoked to dive into this more. I'm gonna be able to make more content real soon. I'm gonna have a lot more time to make more content, so I'm also excited about that. You might hear it in my voice. But I think I might try to get into streaming. I've never streamed anything before. Haven't streamed a live video. I've never streamed any kind of gaming session, so I definitely want to get into that. But definitely plan on getting into some streaming here in the future. But Gravity Circuit is a game that I could easily see myself streaming. I also want to stream The Messenger, which is another great game for the Switch. And I'm going to give you all a present. You can thank me later. But there is a game on the Switch, if you've never played it, and I cannot wait. I'm praying that they come out with a physical version of this. I don't know what they're waiting for. But when you finish watching this video, go to your eShop and download Katana Zero. That is one of the best, probably the best game I've ever played on the Switch. And that's saying a lot. But Katana Zero was probably the only Switch game, it's probably the only video game that I truly found addictive over the past 5 years. Katana Zero is addictive. Like, not just because the gameplay is addictive, but because the story is so intriguing. It's such a good story. And I'm not gonna ruin it for you, but the key elements here is time travel, and it's rated M for mature. I mean, that should be enough. Time travel and rated M, you gotta go check it out. Think Butterfly Effect. I'll just give you that. Think Butterfly Effect. If you've ever seen the movie with Ashton Kutcher, Butterfly Effect, it's like that, but just way better. It's a ton of fun. Katana Zero, go download it after watching this video. You'll thank me later. All right, now let me get back to what I wanted to show you here. So I don't often talk about this stuff on my channel, but I recently decided to pick up a pair of sneakers. And I think these are going to work real well with the season. But I just want to talk about Nike for a second. Again, I know this is a gaming channel, but let's talk about it because I know a lot of you folks like sneakers too. So 4 years ago, everything that Nike sold was on fire. I mean, almost every single release flew off the shelves and resellers were going crazy. And I'm talking about this because it speaks to the whole reseller mindset and reseller mentality. Well, Nike just released a pair, well, they're going to be releasing a pair of Air Jordan 1s on the 14th. I got my pair early. And the amazing part is that I got these sneakers under retail, right? So these sneakers are going to be going for 180 bucks. I got these for $115. That just goes to show you how much of a role hype and euphoria plays into our perceived value of things. Now check these out. Now I don't know about you, but I'm a New Yorker and I'm a Yankees fan. And even if I wasn't a Yankees fan, if you're a Dodger fan, like if you're watching this from LA and you're a Dodgers fan, these sneakers are amazing. These are probably the best pair of not Air Force, look at that. These are the best pair of Jordan 1s that I've seen in a long time because it has the Chicago color blocking, but in a dark navy blue. And I don't know if we've ever seen anything like this. The leather on these are actually really cool. Like I can tell that the leather on this shoe is gonna wear pretty nicely. It's gonna, when it ages, it's gonna age nicely. It's gonna have that nice wrinkle to it. And it's gonna have that nice aged look to it. It's nothing super premium or anything. It's still an Air Jordan. But these are an amazing pair of Jordan 1s. Now, had these released in 2020, this would have been a $500 shoe, easily. But because the hype and euphoria have died down for all things collectibles, for all things wearables, now you're able to get video games, sneakers, and almost any other luxury-based items, because I still consider this a luxury. Because like I said, necessities are things like food, water, shelter. These are luxuries. Now luxuries are at a discount, and it's never been a better time to be a collector and a consumer of these things than now, because now you can get them at highly discounted rates. And like I said, $115 for a pair of sneakers that retail at $180 that haven't even been released yet is a really good sign. And also being able to pick up video games. Now, Gravity Circuit probably wouldn't have, resold for anything crazy, but back in 2020, when certain limited run games released, when you got it, people who got those games were immediately flipping them on eBay. And you would pay $34.99 from limited run, but you were taking those games and flipping them and putting them on eBay for 120 bucks. Games like Blasphemous, games like River City Girls, Dust. I mean, Dust and Blasphemous are still expensive games. Dust still goes for double what it retailed for. Blasphemous still goes for triple what it retailed for. There are certain games that were released in limited quantities that are still just really expensive because they were released in a time where a lot of people had the income to hype these games up. When you think about games like Steriden Binary Stars, when you think about games like it's Love Something, it's that space, Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time. That game, when it first came out, was like $29.99 or $34.99 on limited run. but it was one of the highest reselling video games for the Switch back in like 2020. Strangers in a Dangerous Love Time was Strangers, what is it? Strangers in a Dangerous something. No, Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time is what it's called, I think. Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time was going for over $300 at one point in the reseller market. Games like Ape Out. I don't know if you guys remember when Ape Out, before it got another general re-release, when it was only special reserves did a release for Ape Out, the physical version at first, because I think it was only download only. When special reserves did the first release of Ape Out was one of the most expensive games on the Switch. It was right up there with games like The Messenger, which The Messenger, because it never got another general release, The Messenger is still one of the most expensive games on the Switch to this day. And I'm saying all of this to say that, is The Messenger really worth $200? Probably not, but just the hype, right? The euphoria behind the game has us all still thinking that it's a really expensive game, when that may not be the case at all. But am I gonna spend $200 trying to get a copy of The Messenger? Or am I just gonna take $29.99 and pick up another amazing game like Gravity Circuit, which is probably just as good, if not better? Let me know what you think about this. I know some of these points are a little far-fetched, and I know I'm reaching here, but I'm pretty excited about some of what came in, and I'm interested to know your thoughts. It's the Y2K Collector. It's Wednesday. It's a hump day. I've got a long weekend ahead of me, but I'm hoping to be able to crank out some really solid content for you guys and gals. And let me know what you think. Do you think the hype is dead, or do you think hype is still driving some of these prices? I'm interested to know your thoughts. Take it easy.